in it. And of the 900 million Christians in the world, how many really believe in the true Christ? They believe in lighting a candle. They believe in genuflection and all the other things in the world. And I wouldn't criticize any of them. Leave them until they find the true Christ. When they find the true Christ, then it doesn't really matter whether you eat meat or don't eat meat, whether you drink or don't drink, whether you smoke or don't smoke, whether you do any of these things. It makes nothing whatsoever to do with the true Christ. For you do not give power to anything outside of Christ. And Christ is your own wonderful human imagination. That's Christ. So when you go before anyone, don't even take thought as to what you're going to say. Just imagine the end and have him pronounce his judgment based upon the end you had predetermined. Do that. Live this way in the world, trusting 100% in the pearl of great price. May I tell you, it will not fail you. But you can't modify it. You can't hold back one little reserved thing. I'm speaking from experience. Not knowing that it was my own imagination that predicted accurately through the medium of the cards and the medium of the stars, I held back a little reserved note in my mind's eye when I found Christ. I would still have in my mind's eye my old horoscope, and I could quickly arrange its progression. And I would know the day and justify failure. So the rule of my second house, in conflict with the rule of my sixth, can't get the job. There's no money to it. So it's all there. It's all in my mind's eye. I had to completely give it up and so tear up my horoscope in my mind's eye, it doesn't exist. I had to completely destroy it as a power that guided me. But I held it because I successfully foretold events for unnumbered people in New York City. I had almost the entire metropolitan crowd, the entire metropolitan opera. They came to me. And I so believed in what I did, I predicted with conviction. It worked, and they were so sold on it. And then I had to have an experience one day to show me it was only my own intense belief in these little symbols that made them work. And I came into my friend's home that I taught her how to read charts, how to set them up. Her name was Carpenter, Norma Carpenter, and I taught her. And then, having retired from a teaching profession in Scranton, Pennsylvania, she had a small pension from the railroad where her husband worked, plus a small pension from her former job. So she eked out a living, but though she could augment it in a nice way by telling and reading charts. And I taught her how to do it. When I came to her place one day, she lived in a hotel, Norma was in tears. I said, "What's wrong, Norma?" Well, she said, "A man called me up. He was recommended by a friend of mine, and he was very eager to see me right away. He had this fantastic deal on. So over the phone before he arrived, he gave me his birthday, his hour, everything about it. And so I erected the chart. When he came, I told him I'm so convinced of this good fortune falling his way today that I can close the book on it. He said to me, "Mrs. Carpenter, if you're telling me the truth, I will give you $100. And she said so confidently, "Well, give it to me now, because it has to work today." And she gave me all the reasons which I knew. I taught them to her. How it had to work today because of this transiting moon over these certain aspects of the chart. He said, "No, if it works, you will get it today, but I will not give it to you now." I said, "What's wrong with that?" But she said, I made up this chart from a bound volume of ephemerides. I was sitting at the open window, it's hot. And so I turned away, I was diverted, and when I went back, I didn't realize the wind had blown over the pages. And I erected a chart of a man who was born 10 years before this man. This man wasn't even born. And I progressed by chart from this horoscope made up 10 years before the birth of this man. I said, Norma, did you believe it when you spoke to him? She said, certainly I did. I said, forget it. Just completely forget it. It's done. I was in her room, her suite of rooms that night, around 8, when a Western Union boy came upstairs and delivered a check, a Western Union check for $100. And the chart was drawn of a man who wasn't born. He was born 10 years after this chart of a man. But Norma cannot sell that because she feels they all believed in me. She cannot buy the pearl of great price because she feels her only security is to get her little small check from the railroad in Pennsylvania and her small check from the schoolhouse in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and eke it out with this, so she cannot give up and buy the pearl. You've got to give up every belief in this world in a power outside of Christ to buy Christ. There is nothing but Jesus Christ. You either believe in him or you don't believe in him.